Oh, hey, it's David Heatley here, and welcome to tonight's webinar. This is the first webinar that we're running for 2020. We were running them last year up until May, and then we had a bit of a break, and now we're back into it again. So we're going to be running these monthly webinars every month. Now, while we're waiting for everybody to load up into the webinar, just type in, introduce yourself, and just type in where you're calling from, and just let me know that you can hear me okay and that you can see me okay. So if you can do that, I'm very excited about bringing these webinars to you. It's a thing that we used to run last year and a few years before. And we're introducing them again just to go through and help you with your writing. So like I mentioned, just while you're waiting for everybody to load up into the webinar, just introduce yourself. Let me know where you're calling from. And also let me know that you can hear and see me okay. So it's a really exciting time. I don't know whether anybody, while we're waiting, if anybody's here has been to the Tour Down Under recently here in Adelaide. It was just amazingly awesome. There was some fantastic riding to be had. So it was just amazing, and the weather was fantastic. All right, so just with the chat window, there's a chat window on the right-hand side. Thanks. We've got Cyril. Excellent. It's just starting to come through now. Ross just mentioned he can hear us okay. Colin from Perth, welcome along. Verenda. I don't know whether I've pronounced that right, or Vera, calling from Wollongong. Can see and hear you all good. Fantastic. Awesome. All right, so tonight's webinar, I'll just run through the schedule. We're planning on running it for about 45 minutes to an hour. I wanted to keep them a little bit shorter this time round instead of going for a whole hour. Some of them used to go for an hour 20 with all the questions that we had, so we're going to keep it fairly concise. So first off, I'm going to talk a little bit about goal setting and planning and keeping your motivation high throughout the year. It's a very important thing for us cyclists, especially when we start getting into winter and the weather starts closing down on us. Yep, Yvonne from Philadelphia, fantastic. Ross from Keysborough. Then we're going to have a quick cut in about just after I talk about that. Just talk a little bit about the services that we offer around our coaching services and our Leaner Cyclist. Just a quick update on what's happening there. And then we'll go straight into the questions and answers, and we'll answer those. I'll be answering your questions. And I'll give a priority for those people that are online. So if you're online and want to ask any questions, by all means, do so in the chat window on the right-hand side of your screen. All right, so fantastic to see so many people that have joined us for the first one for this year. All right, so I'm going to start off talking about motivation. And look, I've been through it myself. You know, I've been riding since the 1990s. Actually, the 1980s, I started riding. In 1979, I started riding. In 1980, I started racing. And I've gone through it all. I've had major setbacks with injuries. I've had issues with work getting in the way. I've had my business take over everything and impact on my riding. I've had low motivation. I've struggled with weather. Everything that you could imagine around motivation, I've had it. So it's a very common problem with cyclists, and I want to talk a little bit about working through some of the issues. So what I found, the first thing and the most important thing, I think, is that to understand is that the most successful athletes that I coach are really they're really clear on what their goals are, and they're very highly motivated. All right, so obviously there's a lot more to how successful they are, but the first two key things that they have is very clear on what their goals are and very highly motivated to work towards them. So it's important to develop that skill within yourself and work through driving towards getting that motivation really high. So there's a few things that we can do to really help get clear on what our goals are and how to improve our motivation. The first one is what I call working through your powerful reason why. All right, so underlying everything that you do with riding, there is a powerful reason why you ride, okay? And for me, I'll tell you what my powerful reason was. When I remember at school, I was probably 12, and I was really sick. I used to get a lot of chest infections, and I remember my mum keeping me at home. And I remember coming back to school after being away from school sick for a long period of time. And while I had been away, everybody had gotten new desks in our class, apart from me. So I don't know why I didn't get a desk, just because I wasn't there. They knew I was coming back. But anyway, the teacher said, "Oh, no problem." So I said, "Well, everybody's got new desks, but I don't have a new desk." You know, like I just felt like I was out of place. And they said, "Oh, okay, well, if you sand your desk, we'll get it varnished and it'll look like a new desk." So I sanded my desk and waited for the rest of the year to get it varnished, never varnished. So, you know, I sort of felt like I was really missing out, and that fear of, you know, like of being outcast, really, because everybody else had new desks. And as a kid, it was just, you know, like I just felt like I was really different. So that sort of really impacted on me around how I felt around my health, because the reason why I wasn't at school was because I had these chest infections. So my dad was running at the time, and he introduced me to running. And then I've got a long story about how I got into cycling. I won't bore you with that. But then I got into cycling, and cycling was really my opportunity to keep myself healthy and reduce the amount of times that I got chest infections. And it has become a really big driver throughout all of my life. Now, it was really reinforced in the last couple of years when my mum passed away from cancer. And she passed away from lifestyle cancers. So, you know, my dad was very fit, and he's fantastic now. He's awesome, running around, you know, doing great things, very active. Yet my mum, you know, she passed away from lifestyle cancer. She was a nurse. She looked after everybody else but herself, and it's a great tragedy. And that really reinforced the fact that, you know, my health is the most important thing to me. If I don't have good health, then I really, you know, my quality of life is really dramatically diminished. I can have a great family, awesome house, fantastic car, but if I don't have great health, none of that's important. So my powerful reason why for riding is to keep healthy, and it's my insurance for the future, so I can be like my dad when I get older, and, you know, have a very long and you know, as healthy life as I possibly can. So that's my powerful reason why. So it's important for you to really connect to your powerful reason why, and you need to connect it not only on an intellectual level, but also on an emotional level. You know, and I remember when I was thinking about my powerful reason why, because I was explaining it to my clients, I remember rolling down a hill in Mansfield, and I was thinking about my powerful reason why, and I was thinking about my mum, and thinking about things that happened at school, and how I was sick, and how cycling helped me. And it was, you know, I got a bit teary, you know, and I really connected to that powerful reason why. So that really helps motivate me to move forward my cycling, and it gives my cycling a sense of purpose, an underlying sense of purpose. Now, on top of that, you know, I've got goals around what I want to achieve, and that's really the next step. Is once you've got that powerful reason why, the next step is to start getting goals. And I love working with my clients and dreaming big. You know, like I was talking to a client today. He was doing a few recreational rides locally here in Australia, and I said, you know, have you ever thought about doing this event and that event? And he said, well, I haven't really thought about that, but, you know, that could be something that we could work towards in the future. And I said, well, you know, once you sort of get those sorted out, the next thing is that you want to go overseas, you know, and start doing some fantastic rides overseas. So we got riders that are going over and qualifying UCI Gran Fondo. They're going over to Europe to ride it, ride the Gran Fondo events, you know, the UCI Gran Fondo Masters event over in Europe. And then we've got other riders that are, you know, doing cycle tours, and they're doing events over in Europe. They're doing Haute Route. They're doing, you know, the Paris-Roubaix. Me and Jody did the Paris-Roubaix a couple of years ago, and it's fantastic. You get to ride the race that they're riding the following day on the same roads, the same sectors. You ride the Forest of Arensberg. You get to ride into the velodrome, you know, and finish just like the Paris-Roubaix. It's just an awesome, awesome experience. So, you know, once you've got your powerful reason why, then start dreaming big around some of the things that you want to achieve with your cycling. And wherever you are, you're on a journey with your cycling. You know, whether you've just started out and you're just sort of getting into your first recreational event, or you've done a few recreational events and you want to take it a step further and maybe perhaps go overseas, or you want to go up into the next grade with your racing, or you want to compete and medal at the masters level, or whatever it is. It's important to have those really big goals, and have them kind of a bit not necessarily intimidating, but a bit scary. Something that sort of makes you kind of think, well, that's kind of a bit big, because it's really important that you can work towards that. So, powerful reason why, some big audacious goals. So, but really dream big around what you want to do with your cycling. Don't let, and it's important to not let where you are at the moment color what you want to do with your cycling. So don't get caught up on forget what you can't and can do, and just go, well, what would I really love to do? All right, and forget I'm not really that good at high climbing hills, but forget all that. Just think about what you really want to do, and then we or you can certainly work towards that really big goal. So once you've figured out where it is, then it's important to start working on mapping through a plan to get you there. So, and I work with a lot of my clients on working through their plans on getting them to major events and working through their seasonal plans for the year and the following year. I may be working with an athlete and we may have a 2 or 3 year plan. Some of the other athletes I may have, a 12-week plan, but we're working towards that. And as a coach, of course, I take their big goals, break them down into little goals, steps towards that, and then work out what they need to do right now to work towards it. So, but you can do that yourself. You can get your big goals and find out where you are at the moment, and then just chunk it down into smaller goals along the way to step up to that really big goal. And it's no different to people competing, Commonwealth Games and Olympics. They're going through exactly the same process. Their dream is to become an Olympic, compete in the Olympics, an Olympian. And they may have a dream to podium or medal, but everybody's on the same journey. All right. So we'll just recap on that. Powerful reason why, big audacious goal, and then breaking it down into short-term or shorter-term goals, and then breaking it down into what you really need to do next. Now, of course, once you've got those bigger goals, and events are fantastic goals to work towards. Many of my clients are working towards a particular event in the future. And once you've got that event, the event sorted out, then you've got purpose to your training. If you don't have an event or you don't have something that you're working towards, then you just wake up in the morning and it's very easy not to go out and do your riding. Now, I've suffered from that myself, and I know in recent years I was really struggling with getting my training consistent, and it was about 3 years ago, and I was quite frustrated and disappointed by the time I got to the end of the year. I'd only done 8,000 kilometers for the year, and that's not a lot for me. That's really disappointing, and as a consequence, I wasn't enjoying the riding because I know how it feels to be really fit. And, that's definitely not what a space that I was in. I was really struggling my riding. I wasn't feeling like I was getting anywhere with it. And a lot of it was to do with the fact that I was just overwhelmed with work. So when I did a big review of what I was doing, I realized that my repeating pattern for the previous year was that when I woke up in the morning, the reoccurring pattern that I had was that I felt that I was overwhelmed with the amount of work that I needed to get through. Every single day. And so instead of waking up in the morning and feeling like motivated to get out on my bike, it was like this repression around so much work to do. So I wake up in the morning and I commute down the corridor because I work from home, power up the computer and I'd start working, right? And I realized that was the reoccurring pattern in my life. So I did 2 things. The first thing was that I set just a very simple goal, 10,000 kilometers for the year. Break it down into smaller goals. It's about 200 kilometers a week, all the way through, all right? The next thing I did was I made a commitment to myself that when I woke up in the morning, instead of turning on the computer, I'd commute down the corridor and put on my cycling gear. And it's funny because when you put on your cycling gear, it's very difficult not to then get on the bike. You kind of feel a bit stupid, really, don't you? You put on your cycling gear and then you go, I don't really feel like riding my bike, and take it all off. It's like, no, the next thing you do is just go down and get on your bike and go for a ride. Now, the great thing is that when you've got your powerful reason why, you've got a really good goal, and you really understand why you're riding, then it makes it a lot easier. Like, the riding becomes way more enjoyable. And I know since moving to Adelaide, I mean, we've got some fantastic riding in this area. It's just amazing how quickly you can change that around and just be really inspired by your riding and just go on and just do more and more of it as you build success. And the great thing is that as you become fitter and fitter, of course, things like headwinds and hills, they don't become an issue. And, you know, like my fitness right now, I've just got it to a level where I can go out for a ride and I don't have to worry about, I'm not thinking about climbing the hill. I'm just climbing the hill because it's, you know, the hill's not hard, if that makes sense. And it's like when you're riding the headwind, it's like you just get lost in the ride. And look, I personally do a lot of riding on my own, and that's just my style. But, you know, when you get fit enough, it's, you just really enjoy the ride because you're fit enough to be able to do it. So that's some steps. So what I do recommend that you do is have a think about, you know, your powerful reason why. What is it that, you know, inspires you to get out and ride the bike? What is really the underlining thing that motivates you to want to ride? And it's really personal. So you've got your own thing. And the next thing is that once you've got that sorted out, you may already have some goals for the year, but set up some goals for the year. And maybe a couple of goals 2 years out, like dreaming goals. You know, like if everything goes all okay, you know, I'm keen to do that European trip, or I'm keen to ride that Peaks Challenge Falls Creek. You know, something really, really big. And the amazing thing is that when you get something that you didn't think that, you know, you kind of feel is a bit scary or a bit daunting to do, and you work towards it, and then you do it, it's an amazing feeling to be able to, you know, come across that finish line and go, wow, geez, you know, 12 months ago, it was only a dream. I didn't know whether I was capable of it, you know, and now, you know, I've put all this energy and work into it. And here I am finishing the event that I've been working towards. You know, it's an amazing feeling. And I'm sure that you've felt that in your lives before, right? You know, you've done something. It's been a bit daunting. You've succeeded at it and celebrated the success and experienced that feeling. So just understand that. Now, I talked a little bit about goal setting and planning. You know, once you break it down, the next thing is to benchmark and make sure that you're able to measure performance. Now, I'm not going to go into measuring performance tonight because that's really a whole webinar in itself. But certainly, you know, you can do some simple benchmarks. One of them is as easy as Strava. Like for me, my benchmark for the year was just 10,000 kilometers. And so the benchmark in Strava was, have I done my 200 kilometers for the week? It's a simple goal, but a really powerful one around keeping me on track towards my goal. Now, goals can be as simple as that, or they can be more complex, and you may want to do more complex stuff. Now, I've got some specific goals that I'm targeting at the moment around what my weekly targets are. They're a little bit more than 200 kilometers a week, but I've got specific weekly targets that I'm just ticking off every week. Bare minimum, I need to meet these particular 3 targets, all right, with my training. And as long as I achieve those, then I'm happy. So, but it's important to be able to measure your performance and making sure that you are on track, because if you've got a goal, you've got to be able to figure out, are you on track with that goal or are you not on track? So make sure you've got some way of measuring your performance and whether you're on track or not. All right. Now, the reality is that when you are working towards it, and certainly when I first set my goal around 10,000 kilometers for the year, I did have a few weeks where I didn't meet those targets. You know, I had a few setbacks, but I was able to bring it back and back on track again because I was measuring my performance week on week. Now that happens, we have setbacks. Life never goes to plan. That's a given. And it's not about being caught up in that. It's about just understanding that it happens and working towards having it not impact on moving forward. And really for me, like the sign of a true champion, like, you know, champions, medals around their necks, doing super well, that's one definition of a champion. But my definition of a champion is somebody who may goes through failure, picks themselves up, dusts themselves off, and gets back onto it. And look, anybody, you know, even, you know, if you look at the people at the Olympic level, you know, riders riding the Tour de France and stuff, you know, they have had more setbacks in their life than we probably have. You know, to get to that sort of level, massive setbacks. You know, Anna Meares, you know, went to the Olympics 3 times, which is an amazing achievement in itself. She was riding around the velodrome, you know, in her career, broke her back, like, you know, major setback. And this was just after she had, you know, become a world champion. So, you know, everybody gets their setback. So it's important to just understand that they happen and just to reset yourself and move forward towards them. All right. Cool. All right. So, so that was the thing around goal setting and planning. I really glossed over it. We have a big, and you might have seen a little bit on Facebook that we're starting to promote. We haven't released it yet. Is the Be Awesome Bike Challenge. And the Be Awesome Bike Challenge is all about celebrating and setting up your goals and working towards continually being more awesome on the bike. So we've got a free download that we're going to have available in the next couple of weeks. And it'll be a little worksheet that you can work through. You just work through it, fill out the details and work through this, and it'll help you with your goals and setting and defining what you want to do with your cycling and where you want to take it. And then stepping towards being awesome and then celebrating that with everybody in the Be Awesome Bike Challenge. So something to look forward to. So we're just going to cut away for a second, just talk a little bit about our products and services, and then I'm going to start answering your questions. So if you've got any questions, type them up in the right-hand side of the screen. I know I've already got a few here, but if you've got any questions while you listen to me talk about our membership area and the services that we offer, just type up some of the questions that you have. I give priority to people that are online. If you're, I've got quite a few questions that people asked for this webinar, but the priority goes to people that are online. So without further ado, I'm just going to share my screen here. All right. And just make sure I share the screen one. All right. Okay, so we've just rejigged our packages. So just to give you an idea, we've got these pre-built programs with email coaching support 12 weeks. So this is quite unique. There's a lot of people that offer training programs out there, and I'll be covering this off in another webinar around making sure that training is aligned with the outcome that you want. Now that's super important, like really important. Look, you may be training really hard, but if your training that you're doing is not in alignment with the outcome that you want, it doesn't really matter, right? You're not going to get the results that you want. So if you're not getting the results that you want, then obviously there's something wrong with the training that you're doing. I hope that makes sense. So there's a lot of people that offer training programs out there. We always, with all of our training programs, we provide coaching support, all right? So it's a huge overhead for myself to be able to deliver that. We do it at a really cheap price. It's very, very affordable. But for me, it's really important. It's like a program without any feedback on it is not really much use to you. You don't even know whether the program you're on is actually of any benefit to you, or it's the right program for you in training for whatever event or whatever you want to achieve your riding. So it's important for me that, you know, training program comes with coaching support. All right. So that's why we have these support. So we used to have a monthly. Now we have 12 weeks, and that just helps with our timings around the commitment and stuff. So we've got the 12-week email coaching with training programs, the pre-built training programs. We've got a yearly offer, which is really super amazing. And we give, as part of that, unlimited email support. And if you've got Training Peaks and you want your program loaded up into Training Peaks, we can do that. And we provide feedback on Training Peaks. It's just an epically amazing price for a service like that. All right. Now, of course, for those people that want to get things a lot more detailed, we have our custom programs with email support as well. So that is where we take, you fill out a very detailed questionnaire, and then we build a program from scratch. We don't just select a program, dump it into your Training Peaks account, and thanks very much, thanks for the $549, see you later. No, we actually build the program up from scratch based on working the program around your family and work commitments. And the great thing about that program is not only is it built from scratch, specifically targeted for you and your events and around your work and family commitments, and it's great for people that are on shift work. You know, airline pilots, we've got people on shift work, we've got people all over the place doing crazy stuff on shift work, and it's fantastic for that. Not only that, you get the unlimited email support, and the program's not fixed. So during that 12-week period, if you decide that, or something comes up or whatever, then we can modify that program on the fly for you. So again, it's a fantastic service. Custom program, 12-week, $549. And then once you get to the end of it, you can just keep on renewing. All right. So, and most people do. Custom program is amazing. We load it up into Training Peaks. And then if you're interested in working with me one-on-one, I've got only a handful of clients that I work with one-on-one. And that, again, you get everything, custom program, unlimited email support, and also you get weekly hookups with me. And I go through your data and make sure your training program is in alignment, review everything on a weekly basis. So that's $2,500 for the 12 weeks. So, so that's our coaching packages that we offer, and they're fantastic value. Then we have the Leaner Cyclist program. So again, we've just added 2 new packages to this. So this first one was the first one we introduced, very successful, $749, 90-day self-paced package. We've got a whole lot of training material in our membership area. We give you one of our pre-built standard training programs based on how many hours you're training. So you get 1 of 3 training programs for 12 weeks, 90 days. And it's been hugely successful around getting people that have really struggled with their weight. And I've got a whole webinar about the Leaner Cyclist program coming up, so you'll hear about that. We've got a 90-day workshop that we're going to be releasing February at the moment. We're looking at February, it might be March, that we're going to be workshopping through. So there will actually be weekly calls via Zoom, and we'll be working through the content. We have a customized training program as part of that offering, and it's going to be an amazing 90-day workshop. So that's coming up February or March. And then if you want to fast track the whole process and get the absolute, if you're really struggling with weight, it's been a big issue with you, and you want to get on top of it, then the 90-day one-on-one, 5749. It's a fantastic package. You get the best service possible, custom training program, unlimited email support, and basically my ear for as long as we need to get it sorted out. So weekly catch-ups, review data, make sure you're okay, and sort out your head. So anyway, those are the packages that we've got. We've got a few specials coming up as well, so stay tuned for all of that. Make sure you keep onto the database. And now we're going to start answering the questions. So I'm just going to switch back to my screen. All right, I'm back. All right, so let's answer some of these questions. We already had a few queued up and see what I can do. So let's have a look. I'll just scroll through them. Okay, so now I can't pronounce your name. I'm sorry about that. It's Aysegul. All right, it says, hi, David. Greetings from Turkey. Greetings from Australia. I should like to know that how often I should train after my 40-year-old and how to have recovery you would advise around my age. Right, okay, fantastic. I understand that. And thanks, it was a question that you asked on when you signed up for the webinar, so that's fantastic. So look, I'm 43. There's a few dependents around where you're at with your training. So, obviously if you're a seasoned rider that's been riding years on, years off, and you've been doing 10 8-hour weeks on the bike, then really the amount of training that you're doing is probably not going to change too much from the last 10 years because you've built up your fitness and your base and you've got lots to fall upon. one of the interesting things is that with my more mature athletes, when we get past 40, I usually add a little bit more recovery in. So we'll have, harder session, recovery, harder session. Now, there are some training methodologies. We run a 4-week training week, a 4-week training cycle. So we run through four weeks. All right. Now, some people say when you reach 40, it's 3 weeks. So the difference between a 3 and a 4 week, we don't do the 3 week, because if the training program is built properly, you don't need a 3-week cycle. But the important thing is that we do a 3-week build and then we do a 1-week recovery. And the recovery is really important, the recovery week, because the training load is the stimulus, but it's in the recovery that the adaptation happens. All right. So it's a recovery where the adaptation happens. So understand that. And it's really important that you give yourself ample time to recover. So to answer your question around 40-year-olds, generally, if we're doing custom stuff, it's not a problem. I basically build custom programs for people. Jody is cutting a lot of our programs at the moment. She's fantastic. She's my wife. She's a level 2 coach along with myself, and she's been doing programs. She's like an ace at them. She's super good. 4-week cycles, and we build in a recovery based on where you're at. So, for example, I'll just share my screen. So, what we'll probably look at in your Training Peaks data is that we'll look at your dashboard, if you've got data in here, all right, and we'll just look at your overall CTL around what sort of overall training volume you've been doing, all right? And that'll determine how much training load we put into your program, okay? So it's really specific, like there's not one size fits all, all right? And that's the thing that you've got to understand, is that people are always searching for these holy grail rules with their training, and it's like, well, everybody's different, they come from different backgrounds, we have to treat them really differently, all right, because what may work for one athlete's not going to work for you, and what works for you may not necessarily work for another athlete. So we got to get an understanding of where your overall training load is, all right, and then from there we would work out how much recovery and what sort of sessions you'd want to do. There's no golden rule. If you're over 45, you do 5 sessions a week, and you must have an overall CTL of 750 for the week. It's like, yeah, well, that would work for an athlete that, was reasonably mature, but and had a lot of background with their cycling, but may not necessarily work for you. So the short answer to that, well, we'd have to have a look at your data to answer that question. But you can always contact me offline, and we can have a bit of a conversation around what that might look like. So I'll just turn off my screen. All right, so, but generally, as we get older, we do need to introduce a little bit more recovery into the training programs to make sure that that we're getting a really good adaptation, because it's in the recovery that you get fitter. All right, okay, so I hope that answers your question. All right, so, okay, Lynn, I deal with chronic, serious, genetic acquired osteoarthritis. I have a physio and bike fit by bullying, bike fit and bullying. That was brilliant. Okay, that might have been Lucas Owen, I assume. Thanks for referral, Lucas Owen. My future journey is to keep fit. Fantastic. That's my future journey, to keep fit. Keep weight low, and would love to do masters events. I'm retired from farming and running a business last month. Yeah, okay, ride 3 to 4 times a week. Now, did 2,200 kilometers last year. I don't fit into your mold of 8,000 a year. Would love a broadcast for a senior rider to 65 to be encouraged to manage life and cycling, to be able to move forward, but not be oh yes, okay, that's fine. Look, like it doesn't, Lynn, age is irrelevant. It's really around your cycling history that's important. So, you might have somebody that's just stepped into cycling as a 15-year-old, and they've done, they may only be doing 2,500, kilometers for the year as well, right? Because that's where they're at, and the same as where you're at with your riding, and it's like, don't be ashamed or, anything around that, because it's where you are at the moment, and that's fantastic. Look, I'm a big fan with all the issues around health that we have, and diabetes and weight and obesity. I'm all for people getting out and keeping active, and for you, if that's a couple of rides a week, tootling around on the bike on a bike path, fantastic, or spending a bit of time on Swift, awesome. You know, that's great. So, you know, Lynn, it's great. And look, the great thing is that, you know, and you know as well as everybody else, you know, when you get moving again, it just really helps with everything. You know, it helps with your mental state, it helps with your body physically, and it just helps free things up. And sometimes, like, you know, I've had issues with my knees for years, and it's like you kind of need to push through a little bit of pain to get to the other side of it, and then it's like everything magically happens for you. So it's fantastic. So Lynn, look, I'm not too sure what the question was, but that you'd want to broadcast for senior 65 plus. You know, if you want to chat individually about your training and what you want to do, then certainly send me an email and we can chat a bit further about that as well. All right, so Veru, I hope I've pronounced that right. Please excuse me if I haven't. Weight training to improve on the bike. All right, so there is going to be a webinar this year specifically on weight training. All right. Now, I'll give you a couple of simple guidelines around weight training. The first thing is, depends on what you want to achieve with riding, right? Making sure that the training you're doing is matching the outcome that you want. Now, I'll give you an example, and Animeers is an example. There's been some documentaries on Animeers, and they, of course, you know, what makes good TV? You know, that's like the producer's there, and he's like, he wants to get something wow. So, you know, he gets Animeers doing box jumps. Right? Fantastic. You know, it's like awesome. And Animeers was awesome at doing box jumps. Okay, so, but understand what Animeers was. She was a sprinter. Okay, so box jumps and that sort of explosive power, you know, training, matching outcome. But the problem is that people look at that and they go, oh, okay, so does that mean that box jumps are going to really help me with riding? Well, if you want to be a sprinter, yeah. But if you want to climb along, you know, box jumps are not going to help you on a 3-hour ride, right? They're going to help you for like 20 seconds where you need to put out that huge burst of power, right? So when you're on a 3-hour ride doing box jumps, not going to help you, all right? So it's important to understand first what you want to do with your riding, all right? So, so generally, you know, if you want to do sprint type stuff, explosive sprint stuff, then obviously big weights, you know, the sprinters that are competing at Olympic, Commonwealth Games, you know, the other thing is, I'll tell you another story, you know, like the other thing is that they see these athletes doing these exercises, maybe Animeers might be on a leg press. And there's good and bad things about doing a leg press exercise, but it's important to understand that, you know, Animeers, you know, they don't show all the strength and conditioning behind Animeers' ability to be able to do those exercises. So in a lot of cases, a lot of people don't actually have the foundation in the movement and functionality in their body to actually do all this explosive stuff. And we realized that like epic years ago when we first started coaching in 2007, and we had issues with trying to get what we wanted our athletes to do for endurance-based events and racing cyclists and working on that. You know, the personal trainers were kind of set up in this bodybuilding mentality back there. And don't get me wrong, you know, weight training for bodybuilders is different to weight training for cyclists. But the problem was a lot of the personal trainers at the time were all caught up in the whole bodybuilding stuff. And they were trying to apply bodybuilding to cyclists, you know, training, weight training. Building big muscles is one thing. Building efficient muscles on a bike is another thing. So core stability is incredibly important. Movement, functionality, those are the important things. And that's why we developed an amazing strength training program we still sell today. We did an upgrade to it a few years ago. Got a strength and conditioning coach and one of the best in Australia to put together the program for us specifically to help cyclists. It's all video driven and it's fantastic. But the most important thing is to make sure that your training matches the outcome. So, you know, for most cyclists who are desk bound or haven't got good core strength or haven't got good flexibility, then it's important to get those things sorted out first before you start lifting heavy weights, all right? So foundation first and then start specializing. So I've kind of talked a little bit about the subject, but I think you understand how I'm going. So generally we recommend not working on machines, all right? So we use free weights with all our exercises, multi-jointed exercises, and work a lot on building stability and developing power through all the range of movement, all right? And also we need to make sure that we're counteracting the bad, I don't know what I was going to call posture, but as cyclists, we're locked into a machine, we're riding it for long periods of time, hunched over it, and we need to correct that. So a lot of the strength training that we offer, the core component of it is correcting all those underlying imbalances in our body that we develop while riding. All right, so it's important to address that as well. But generally, core strength, stability, movement before moving into really big weights. All right, so another question here. Colin, do I need Training Peaks premium subscription to work with your coaching, or is the free Training Peaks account sufficient? All right, quick question, quick answer. Okay, so you don't need a paid version of Training Peaks to work with us. So you can work with a free one. And that's one of the reasons why we use Training Peaks, is that you can get a free version of Training Peaks and we can schedule in your training programs, look at your data and everything within Training Peaks. We see everything, all right, which is fantastic. It's a fantastic tool. Unlike Strava. Strava's a great tool for, showing your rides and getting a few Strava segments and that sort of thing. The performance management stuff's kind of okay. But Training Peaks is really the gold standard in training platforms. That's why we use it. And you can get it for free. Now, if you're interested in getting the numbers, the performance management charts and those sort of things, obviously you need to get the premium version. But look, if I look at the amount of clients that we have on Training Peaks, and we have hundreds of people that we coach on Training Peaks, literally hundreds, there would be only a very small percentage of them that actually really care about the numbers. They're just happy following the program because they have faith in what we're doing, all right? And they don't need to look at the numbers because they know that it works. And like we've got oodles, like at the end of the day, you want to see results. Like, we're here riding and training because we want to get better, all right? So at the end of the day, they don't necessarily need to see the numbers. They know that they're getting better on the bike. And we've got a whole, if you jump onto our website, for those people that don't believe any of this stuff works, I'll just share my screen again. For those people that are interested in seeing the reviews, a day doesn't go by without somebody emailing me saying, mate, it's just been fantastic. So if you want to read some of this, we've got like seriously pages and pages and pages of results from our athletes. All right. So, so to get back to it, some people, most people, don't want to end the event, did not do that. All right, some people don't want to see the numbers, they just have faith in the program. All right, so, okay, so thanks very much, insightful so far. Must have shoot, we'll look at the webinar, fantastic. All right, Ross, how do I keep my RPM above 80, 90 while riding? All right, all right, I was going to be cheeky and say change into an easier gear. All right, so that's one of the things that you'll probably need to do. So when you're riding at higher cadences, look, even I struggle riding at higher cadences out on the road. And if you look at my data, it's very difficult for me to do that anyway when I'm climbing, because I spend most of my rides climbing. Like I just head for the hills because I love climbing hills, and hills are my friend, and hills should be your friend too. Like just. For those people that are scared of hills, just get over it. It's like hills are fantastic. So just wake up one morning and say, damn it, I'm not going to let this hill beat me. I'm going to make it my friend. So for those people that struggle on hills, and the great thing is that the more hill climbing you do and the more weight that you lose around, excess weight, then the easier hill climbing becomes, and it's like, you get to the point where it's easy. All right. So 80 to 99. So the important thing is if you're able to ride with a bunch on a flat road, fantastic. You can just sit on the back of them and you can just cruise along, 90 to 100 RPM, and that'll really help your cadence. And look, high cadence stuff's really critically important. Now, not the holy grail. It's an important component of your training. So cadence work, we do a lot of varying work with cadences because cadence, different cadences exercise different aspects of our riding. All right, so higher cadence helps work on our cardiovascular fitness, helps improve our technique, and it helps all aspects of our riding. All right, so it's important, and that's why in our training programs we're always prescribing cadences that you should be riding at. So if you're in a bunch, easier gear, spin, 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 and just really focus on really good technique, all right? Really good technique. Now, if you're on a trainer, super easy. Easier gear, spin it up. And, you know, if you're not used to riding at those higher cadences, then take the cadence up to where you feel comfortable taking it up to. You know, like if it's 90, then it's 90, all right? You know, don't try and force it because you want to keep good technique. And just hold it there for as long as you feel comfortable. Don't try and force it. Just ride at that higher cadence, all right? And then when you feel like you're just losing it, losing technique, back the cadence off again, all right? So don't try and force it. The last thing you want to do is ride at higher cadences and be bouncing all over the bike. Look, I've been to spin classes and it's like, oh my God, like, what were they thinking? Like, seriously, it just hurts my eyes. You see people, they spin up and they're just bouncing all over the bike, absolutely no control. You know, they're going to blow a knee, you know, or an ankle. It's like really dangerous. And so it's just super important to be in control of that stroke. And the really important thing about higher cadences is what's happening at the bottom of the stroke, because the reason why people bounce when they're riding at higher cadences is because when you're pushing down on the pedal, as you transition through the bottom of the stroke, whatever muscles are turned on have to turn off. And what muscles are turned off have to turn on to bring your leg up. Now, the back part of the stroke's a relaxed cycle anyway, unless you're standing. But you want to be able to transition really smoothly through the bottom of the stroke. So when you're spinning up on those higher cadences, it's really important to focus on what's happening at the bottom of that stroke. Super important. Super important. All right. And then once you get the bottom of the stroke sorted out, you work on pushing over the top of the stroke. So push over the top of the stroke, drag through the bottom of the stroke, all right? And be in control of that. And just ride at a cadence that you're in control of that. And as you work on it, you'll spin up, and you'll find that you'll spin up into high cadences. And as you develop it, it takes time. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. Like, seriously, I have been riding the bike, well, since 1979. I'm still working on my pedaling technique, all right? Still working on it. So cycling's like swimming. You know, technique is really important. And you know, good bike setup. So Lucas Owen's fantastic in bullying. Really good. There's a few other bike fitting around, so if you need some bike fits, but if your seat's too high, you won't be able to get to the bottom of the stroke properly, and you'll lose core stability, all right? And then you won't be able to ride at higher cadences. So the other really important thing, I didn't even mention it, is that when you are riding at higher cadences, it's important to lock your core and keep it light on your handlebars, all right? So drive from your hips. That's really important, all right? Drive from your hips. All right. So look, we're coming up to 18 past. It's about 48 minutes. All right. So look, I'm gonna finish it off there because I wanted to keep these. You know, I didn't want these to go for an hour, but I just wanted to thank you very much for attending this webinar. I hope you've got a lot out of it. Certainly, by all means, if you've got any questions, just email me at support@cycling-inform.com. I'll show you how you do that on the website. So I'll turn the screen share on. All right, so you'll just find it on the website. If you're on a mobile phone, you have a little cookie thing here, and you just press on it, or you just go to contact. All right, and there's a little contact form there. You can fill that out. Or if you get an email from me, most of the emails that I get are, most of the emails that you get from me, if you reply to them, it goes into our support ticketing system, and I'll be able to reply to them. So certainly, if you've got any more questions, by all means, fire away on email. I'll just turn off my screen. It's been fantastic catching up with you. Thanks so much. All the best, and look out for the next webinar that will be scheduled for next month, and I'll let you know what the topic is. But we're going to be working through a whole lot of really exciting topics this year, and it's going to be awesome. So fantastic. Thanks, Lynn. Yep. Do your best. Excellent. All right. Well, look, all the best. Take care. Take care out on the road. Keep it safe. I'm riding it super early in the morning these days, and I'm lit up like a Christmas tree. So, you know, make sure you're highly visible out on the road, and keep it safe, keep it upright, and we'll catch you in the next webinar. Catch you soon.